Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review. And today I'm going to be reviewing Wicked, which is now out in cinemas worldwide. The musical adaptation, which has made its way to the big screen for the very first time. And it is a part one of a two-parter with part two due out next November. I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about history with Wicked, the lack of it as an introductory point. But before I get into any of that, I do want to hear from people in the comments at home. So please do leave your comments, your thoughts on the film. A question that's been asked, a few people I know have shared it. Did people know this was going to be a part one of a part two? I'm very curious by the general audience's reaction to that kind of thing. I'll talk about my moment with that in the screening a little bit later on. But I do want to hear people's thoughts on it. So please do comment. I'm just come out of a packed, when I say packed screening, a sold out screening at a very, very busy cinema, which completely caught me off guard this week. So I know this is going to be very popular. I'm hearing stories about massive opening weekend numbers. We'll find out more in the coming days, but this could be one of the last big films of 2024. So it is going to be a really interesting one to get people's thoughts. Those with a history of the musical, those who know nothing about the musical, maybe fans of The Wizard of Oz. I'm just really curious to get people's thoughts on this one, so please do comment it. If you want to find out about other videos, what else we're working on, linktree.com/cinemasavvy. That's got links to all of our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and Blue Sky. But getting into the film, getting into the history of this film, I went into this completely blind. I know that John Chu was attached to direct. I know the cast members that had been hired for the film. And I knew that Wicked was a musical that had the Wicked Witch of the West. I've never seen the stage play. I've never read the book. I knew nothing about this. I hadn't had it spoiled per se. So until a week ago, I presumed that this was a two-part remake of The Wizard of Oz as a musical because I've never seen the stage play. I've not seen many musicals on stage. So I don't have the knowledge heading into this. And again, I saw the trailer before Gladiator Part 2. And at that point I realised, oh, it's a prequel, it's about the Wicked Witch. Okay, I kind of guessed that, but I guess the modern trends of the villain story, I guess this is one of those that really created and did that. But I still thought it was going to be a remake of The Wizard of Oz with songs from the witch's point of view. And I had that clarified at the start of the week by a few friends that no, it is a musical about the Wicked Witch essentially, and they've not ruined anything, they've not spoiled anything, and that was a bit of news for me. So that's how limited my knowledge is heading into this. Now I know it's a two-parter because I know about film, and I've got to say the studio's done a fantastic job for marketing this film. It is everywhere. The branding deals, the sponsorships. In England, I don't know about the Americas, but we have a squash drink. There's now a green flavour and a pink flavour, one for each of the witches. So it's safe to say this is one of the big event films of the year, and it's really paid off in marketing. People I know that know nothing about the musical who have spoke about maybe seeing it, that kind of thing. Seeing it was sold out tonight. It was at 6 p.m. on a Friday, but sold out completely. Every seat, the awful ones at the front, also all gone. So I did not brace for it to be as big as it was. And with my lack of knowledge heading into it, there was a real sense of curiosity. How are they going to do it? What would the prequel be about besides the obvious things we know? How's Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz going to fit into things? How's the story that the Wizard of Oz is going to fit into it? I knew nothing. And actually, that made for a really great experience watching it today. I'm just going to go my initial thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I've seen a lot of people I know who were at the premiere on Monday, who were at the press screenings, and everyone's loved it. It's had a really good reception from people I know. And that's kind of made me a bit more excited to see it in the sense of, I know nothing, I'd like to know something, I want to see what the hype is about. I'm watching it with a general audience. Please, nobody sing. Nobody get their phones out and take photos of the screen. It didn't happen, thankfully. That's unfortunately been a trend happening far too much recently. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm trying to break down the enjoyment of this. I'm going to start with the performances. Cynthia Erivo, who is superb in this, and I'm not sure how familiar people are with her. I've seen her in a few films, and I very much enjoyed her in Widows, the Stephen Creed film, which is excellent. I have to recommend that for people at home. It is an incredible film, and that's the main thing I know her from. So I knew she had a background in theatre, in musicals, when she was cast as this. Obviously, people being cast as people that have done musicals, there's a bit of anticipation building on the UK production side of things, both parts being shot here back to back. And it was really interesting to see her in the lead role. And I thought she was outstanding, as I said. Phenomenal voice and a talent. I really enjoyed what they're doing with her story. Again, it isn't a, oh, here's how the villain is actually right all along. it's a very different approach to that subject matter, and I'm very excited to see what happens in part 2, because it leaves us on a great cliffhanger, which is obviously going to turn her into the Wicked Witch from the Wizard of Oz as it comes round. Really playing up some of the dynamics of the Wizard of Oz, certain story moments, story beats. The Yellow Brick Road being a great example, the flying monkeys popping up. And then with Ariana Grande, who I am not completely familiar with in terms of music. I've got no idea if she's been in films before. I'm not clued up with this sort of pop sort of stuff, so I thought she was really good in this film. Very, very funny. Incredible voice. Not just the songs, but in normal dialect as well. And I thought it really played up. I know the marketing's the pink and the green, and it's almost a double act of sorts, but it really played up the divide between them. And I didn't know this was going to be set like a university, about their early days, what's going to put them on this path to this. I knew nothing, and I thought those two as leads were superb. I don't want to talk Oscars, but I am. I think this is going to be all over it. Just talking about Ariana Grande, supporting actress, submit her in that. I'm sure she'll be nominated at this point in time, because it was phenomenal. And it's really interesting to see a musician go into the acting side of things. They're the two real cores I'm focusing on with the performances of the characters. It's make or break with the duo. The film can't work if those two can't work. And it got that right. And then you bring in some great names in the supporting act type things. Jeff Goldblum, who's a very, very welcome individual. Probably at the 2 hour mark when he pops up. I was not aware of that. I thought, we're going to see him like throughout the whole film. But we really don't. I kind of want to criticise, not the marketing, because the marketing's done a superb job. And pretty much a lot of the shots used in marketing are from the last 30 minutes. A lot of the shots right at the end are being used. I understand why, but it's always frustrating when that happens in films. It's such a minor gripe, it doesn't affect me watching it, but again, setting up for part 2, right, we're obviously going to get way more Jeff Goldblum. Michelle Yeoh, who I thought was superb as well. Not seeing her do a musical before. I know she was in Crazy Rich Asians, which John Chu directed as well, and sort of talking about his direction, I thought he did a phenomenal job. The production design, I thought was superb. The costume design that goes with that. The sets, the costumes, the musical pieces. I don't want to just jump in and say like those sorts of Oscar-y type cinematography, but it has been superbly directed, this entire film. And it felt like everything was in place. But there is one real minor criticism I have, and it's such a strange gripe for me. Visually, something fell off. I don't know what that is. I really don't. I don't have the musical knowledge of others, but just something visually wasn't working for me for the whole film. When we're at this Grande university campus, which again, the production side looked great, it just didn't... It looked great in the sense of the sets. The visual of that, I just felt could have looked better. You get to Oz, I felt like it could have looked better. And this is a very strange thing I'm going down, because I can't nail what that criticism is, but I just thought, and I keep getting flashbacks to Barbie from last year, how amazing it looked. Every single shot. And this film shot really well. I'm just a bit lost as to, I don't want to say colour grading because it seems too obvious, but it didn't feel like there was a pop, that we were really in Oz. And where we kind of go with that is a really tricky side piece for me that I saw some nonsense online that they should have shot it in Technicolor. There are people that don't know anything about film who are just saying that because it was said all those years ago. Technicolor's not been done for decades. But I do agree that visually there could have been something more. And if that's the only criticism I've got from a film, that's a pretty damn good criticism to have, that I'm not faulting any performances, I'm not faulting musical numbers, the choreography on the dance sequences, the story, the writing, the splitting of the part 2, the opening sequence leaving you with questions as to how and why is she the way she is, and what is going to transpire to get her onto that next pedestal down the line. So there's so much going for this. I had a really good time watching it. But it's a very awkward one because I know nothing about it. I'm probably not going to go and buy a ticket to watch it. You never know. But I'm sat like, yeah, I've got all the answers if I need the answers, but can I wait a year? That's the real big question I have coming out of this. And you know what? If I'm asking, can I wait a year? That shows the film's done a really good job in splitting this into a part 1 and a part 2. I'm excited to see what comes from it. I've mentioned some of my favourite things about this film. I mentioned the cinema experience. It was absolutely packed, as I said. I think this is going to be a heavyweight at the Oscars. Maybe one of those kind of films that is over some technical nominations. We see a lot more of it. And maybe dependent on the part 2 landing, we might see it do a lot more. but it's certainly got a great setup, and I'm invested as someone. There's nothing to this. Last time I rewatched Wizard of Oz was last year, and by the way, as a mini plug, the 4K UHD disc is amazing on the Wizard of Oz, so I recommend that. If they want to come out of this, they want to go back to it, pick that up. I think H&B's got it for £10 on the site at the moment, so I really recommend that as a sideways plug. No affiliate links, nothing like that. Yeah, I just really recommend it. So yeah, that's kind of how I am with this film. It's an interesting one to talk about. It's one I've never spoken about before, and it's one I knew almost nothing about till earlier this week. So it's been exciting seeing a lot of people excited for this film, and I think when we talk on this channel, when I've spoken a lot about the cinema experiences, we want people to go to the cinemas. If this film's going to be the juggernaut hit for the year, or maybe there's going to be a humongous one next week with Moana, maybe Lion King, we're underestimating how big that's going to be, the same with Sonic, but it feels like a really good time to be at the cinema, and people were out to watch it in their absolute flocks, and that's a great thing to have. So I'm going to play the end of this review here and now. It's a little bit shorter than normal, but again, I do want to hear what people think on this, especially fans of the musical, and those that are unfamiliar, as was I. I knew it was going to be a part 2, but at the end, it says to be continued. Someone like screamed what? Whether that was sarcastic, I don't know, or whether they genuinely didn't know, who knows. But yeah, it's going to be one we talk about, I guess, for a year at least. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all so much all for watching, for following us. We've got a lot of videos happening at the moment. There's going to be a review for Senna at some point the next week, the new Netflix series. Harry Potter Reboot Episode 2 goes up tomorrow. There's some new releases. Gladiator's out in America. We've got a review from last week on there. So a lot of things are happening. Mount Rushmore's out on Tuesday for Disney. Moana, as I mentioned. If you want to find out about videos, updates, hit the link tree in the description below. But that is going to do it for today. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.